And it's Chad Leistikow of the Des Moines Register, along with Tyler Tachman of the Des Moines Register. Tyler, we made it. We made it to game week, our first Tuesday live YouTube pod. Thanks to all our viewers and listeners at Hawk Central. Exciting to be here on game week. I think we both were interested to see if Cade McNamara, number one, showed up. Number two, what he said, and if he kind of clarified Monday's depth chart, of him being on the one line. He's still QB1, right? But we don't know if he's going to play on Saturday. Officially questionable, according to Kirk Ferentz, for Saturday. And honestly, as I listened to all the quotes, I've gone back to what Cade had to say, what Kirk had to say. They've done a great job of making it super cloudy and unclear what their plans are going to be on Saturday against Utah State.
Yeah, I think Cade did a really good job of sidestepping, giving as much information as possible, almost as if he was on the field trying to sidestep defenders. So, but yeah, so basically he was non-committal about saying whether he would play or not Saturday. I think probably a lot of fans were hoping that he would just go ahead and say he was playing Saturday, but that isn't the case. I guess some of the more specific updates we got were positive in that he's back practicing and he has been medically cleared to play. So that's not an issue. What the issue is whether it's worth putting him out there when maybe he's not 100%. I think it's a real kind of dilemma that we're talking about of whether, I think we're probably going to kind of debate this of whether he should play or should not play. I think there's definitely an argument on both sides of it. The safe option would be to sit him out, and you would think that Iowa would be fine getting by Utah State without him. But at the same time, then you're looking at possibly throwing out Deacon Hill, who hasn't hasn't even attempted a pass in college. So yeah, it's actually kind of fitting because of how complicated the kind of lead up to the season has been with the gambling stuff and everything else that's kind of gone on. It's kind of fitting that the star quarterback who's supposed to be the face of the offense, we don't even know whether he's playing or not.
Yeah, and it's just like a sports bet, right? It's 50-50.
You got to be careful with that around here. Can't be
Yeah.
making too many betting jokes.
Will Cade play? Yes, -110. No, -110. I don't know. You know what? If that was the bet, if that was on the sports book, will he play? I think I would lean to no. I think I would lean toward the no. So let's have that fun debate. Okay, I'll take the side of here's why Iowa should sit him. If you're up for it, take the side of and whatever. If you don't feel strongly about it, that's fine. But of why he should play, all the good reasons he should play. So I've kind of come around listening to these guys today and to the fact that I think Iowa should sit him on Saturday if he's not 100%. And it does not sound like he's going to be 100% on Saturday by Saturday. I mean, I guess they'll evaluate that Friday, but here's kind of the what Cade said, what Kirk said is, which I found interesting. Kirk Ferentz said if he's not up to the standard that we feel would be validating of his performance or whatever. Like basically, if they can't put him out there and he can't be the quarterback he needs to be or can be, then they will sit him. So, and I think the rationale for that is strong. Number one, you don't want to re-injure anything, and if it's a quad muscle issue. So if there is, if there is a partial tear, that tear needs time to heal and strengthen, all that stuff. And Kirk Ferentz kind of sidestepped that question a little bit, but I still feel like if you rest him another week from game activities, yeah, he's practicing, but that's not the same as getting chased down by a 300-pound defensive lineman. You save him for another week. The big picture of the season to me is a lot more important than this Utah State game. If Iowa starts Deacon Hill, sure, there's a chance they could lose the game. The chance goes up from maybe 6% to 12%, maybe something like that. Again, we're talking gambling odds here, but yeah, I think for the big picture of the season, and Cade had a quote pretty much spot on about that very topic. See if I can find it here. He said this: My intention and my goal is to play as many games as I possibly can. That's what Cade said. To me, that was a tell, Tyler, and I don't know what you think. I thought that was a tell that said, hey, we got to think about the big picture of this season. Iowa State is next week. Penn State whiteout. I mean, it's literally 20 some days from right now. I mean, that's not far away. He needs to be 100% for those games. Not he can't risk being less than 100%. Coming out of Saturday, in my opinion.
I think to your point, they could almost be like addition by subtraction, right? Like if he doesn't play game one, then that could allow him to be healthier down the road of the season and play more, down the road. But I would say if we're kind of looking at it from both angles here, if he is medically cleared, which Kirk Ferentz said he is.
Yeah, he is.
So then you're looking at a situation of basically just deciding whether he is healthy enough. And I would argue that probably 75% Cade McNamara would be better than Iowa's other options. So on top of that, if it's just truly, and it sounds like the issue is there's the risk of re-injuring of having major re-injury is pretty small. It sounds like from what Kirk Ferentz says is mostly just soreness that he'd have to play through. Like this isn't anything that Cade McNamara hasn't done before. When he was in high school, he played through a cracked rib and 2 pieces of cracked vertebrae that were partially broke off. And so basically what happened was they went to the doctor. The doctor said there's no he can't, it's not going to get worse. He's just going to have to play through the pain. He wanted to play through the pain. He did it. When he was at Michigan, he played through a separated throwing shoulder in 2020 against Penn State. So my point is, if it's just truly about being able to play through the pain, I think Cade McNamara has no issue. That's nothing new to him. He's played through worse. But I think for me, the biggest thing is what's the risk of making the injury worse? If there's little to no risk of making it worse and it's just about him getting through the pain, I think he's a competitor. I think you get the adrenaline going. I think you play him. But if there's risk of, okay, well, this could get much worse if he steps the wrong way or this or that, then I think I become a lot more hesitant because you're jeopardizing potentially the rest of the season for a game that they should win without him.
So many thoughts racing through my head as you talk about this. Okay, I'm going to stick with the sit him scenario, okay? The other advantage of sitting him is you give Deacon Hill some college snaps. This is a perfect way to get him on the field in case you need him sometime. Let's say in the Penn State whiteout. Let's say in Jack Trice Stadium next week if Cade does go down. Even if it's brief, you need to know if he can operate a college offense, or Power 5 offense, a top 25, team, not offense. And also we got good news today from Kirk Ferentz in that Joe Labus is back. Now, I am happy to share now that rumors in my text group that he was out for the year have grossly been exaggerated, and not from me, from members. And at least according to Kirk Ferentz, he's back at practice. He's looking good. So at this point, Hill would have the nod over Labus, according to Ferentz. But if Hill struggles, you've also got a guy that won you the Music City Bowl, sort of. I mean, he protected the football. He did what he had to do to win ugly in that Music City Bowl, 21-0. And, protected the ball, and Kentucky didn't. So you've essentially got your guy that's gotten all the 1 reps lately in Deacon Hill available, ready to go. Kirk said he has improved a lot. We're going to get to Deacon in our second topic of today's show, so I won't get too far into this. But you've also got Labus as a backup. And, Tyler, I would even go this far. I don't think Kirk would do this. I don't think they would even entertain this scenario necessarily, but I wouldn't rule it out, like if you're discussing things. And because I even asked Kirk today, could you have Cade as like an emergency quarterback situation? And he said, yeah, he could. So I just wonder if, okay, it's like going terrible. Deacon starts, Joe's no better, and I was down 17-3 at half. Hey, put on the cape, Cade McNamara. Go pretend like it's 2020 Michigan at Rutgers and go lead this team to victory. You know, we would have liked to sit you out, but you got to go. You got to go win us this ball game. So that's why I say sit him.
At that point, I feel like if they would go to the emergency quarterback route where like he's suited up, he's available, but if they don't have to play him, they won't. I would like why not just play him? If there's a chance, if you're willing to put him in like a dire situation,
Right.
then why not just throw him in to begin with? Because I think the last thing you probably want to do is put him in an unfavorable position in his first game as Iowa's quarterback in a spot where he's got to sling the ball around. Because the thing is, like, we've heard a lot of talk about this offense. We really haven't seen a whole lot of it up close. We saw kind of some flashes of it during the kids' day at Kinnick open practice, and I think there were some good signs of throwing the ball more downfield, maybe being a little bit taking more risks in terms of play calling. But at the same time, like I just I don't know if I don't feel comfortable in if things go wrong, putting him out in a tough situation, like throwing him in the third quarter to start if they're down by a touchdown or two. So I think that if they would think about going the emergency quarterback route, and you're saying I'm willing to put him in the game, then you might as well just start him.
No, I totally. That's why I don't think Kirk Ferentz will ultimately do something like that. But I think so. I think if he's not going to start, I think he'll be like in sweats or a jersey with no pads, something like that. But I'm just throwing it out there as because Kirk said, yeah, maybe he could be an emergency quarterback type situation. I mean, here's the other way you could approach it, Tyler. And I also don't think this necessarily goes along with what Ferentz has done over the years, but he's also, he's also got a transfer quarterback who is a game day captain now. I mean, like they think so highly of Cade and they're treating him in a good way, differently than almost any newcomer they've ever had before. They are centering their hopes on Cade McNamara here. Could you, put him out there to run the offense for, I don't know, a quarter and a half? Say Iowa gets up, with the hope of, hey, we're going to run the ball down their throats. Cade's going to throw 5-6 passes. Be instructed to throw the ball away quickly if need be, not scramble, whatever. And, as long as, this is them talking, as long as we're up, 21-0 at halftime or whatever, get him the heck out of there and wrap that quad and get him ready for Jack Trice. That's another scenario you could think about where you could always bring him back in if things go wrong. Maybe try to limit his snaps, almost like an NFL preseason game. But it's interesting the situation that they're in right now. And maybe they're, laughing at all this discussion right now. They know he's not going to play already, or they know he's going to play the whole game and just kind of playing coy. But the way that they phrased everything, it feels like it's not going to be determined for sure until later this week.
I think what it also does is kind of throws a little variable into what Utah State has to prepare for, right? I know that uh, I've been following what Indiana has been doing kind of leading up to the season,
Yes.
and they're not revealing who their quarterback is, and people are not really happy with that. But at the same time, like if Utah State was preparing for Cade McNamara for the last 2 months, and all of a sudden you might have to prepare for Deacon Hill, who hasn't attempted a pass in college, or even Joe Labus, it's just another variable that kind of is thrown into the equation for Utah State to worry about. And also, maybe you hope that if you play Cade McNamara, he doesn't even need to do much. Maybe he hands the ball off 30 times. Like maybe he is just not asked to do that much, and just having him out there is kind of the advantage in that calming presence. You hope maybe Caleb Johnson and LaShawn Williams can do a lot of the work, and you hope the offensive line can come off on a good foot. So maybe he doesn't need to be healthy enough to be Cade McNamara. Maybe if he's just, like I said, maybe just 75% of, maybe he doesn't scramble like he would normally, or, you try to restrict him. I know it's difficult, and because of the competitor he is, I'm sure it's hard in the moment to kind of dial it back, but maybe you try to ask him to do that and be a little bit more conservative in terms of play calling, just to try to limit the potential injuries or any weird plays that could come up.
We do have some YouTube comments that I think are good ones. I like these kind of that, by having Cade in the wings type of plan would be taking Utah State too lightly. I do agree with that. I don't think Kirk Ferentz would approach a game that way because he did say we, essentially, we're going to win the game. Our plan is to win the game. Like, and Ferentz has notoriously never taken anybody lightly. That said, I think you also have to make a calculated risk or bet on Deacon Hill / Joe Labus. Hey, are we good enough to win this game with Joe Labus and Deacon Hill starting? Like, if that's the discussion, yes, we'll win the game. It might not be pretty, but we're going to win the game. Then I think you sit Cade McNamara. If they come to the conclusion, I don't know, coach, it could be real dicey. Then I think, it's more you play Cade. So I kind of think they can win without him personally this week. I'm not taking Utah State completely lightly, but I also think this defense, as folks who read what I posted today about Phil Parker, defense is allowing 6.6 points per game the last 5 week 1 home openers in Kinnick. It's you got to feel good about where the defense is at, no matter who your quarterback is. So let's go to topic 2 now, Tyler. For those that this is your first run through a game week Tuesday pod, but typically we try to hit 3 topics, and we wanted to hit obviously the big one first. But the second topic is also quarterback. So we're just going to kind of continue this conversation. What would a Deacon Hill start look like if it's not Cade McNamara? How would that game unfold in your eyes? What would they ask him to do? How would it go? Kirk Ferentz says he's improved in the last 3 weeks. Your thoughts on a Deacon Hill college debut Saturday if it occurs?
I think part of what makes this situation maybe so difficult to forecast and maybe to decide as well is that we don't know. Like there's no he hasn't attempted a pass in college, so that's I think the uncertainty of it is kind of what makes it so difficult to forecast. And I think if he does start, you're going to look at a conservative. I would think you would look at a conservative play call, a lot of runs to Caleb Johnson, LaShawn Williams, short passing, probably basically everything that Iowa fans wouldn't want to see out of the offense in terms of like this kind of new look, maybe trying to air the ball out a little bit more. I think you'd have to really rein that in without Cade McNamara. But I would say that I think this discussion might be considerably different if Joe Labus didn't miss time, because I think so. Kirk Ferentz said today, so Joe Labus is back practicing, but for some time it had hurt him to throw. Like it was painful for him to throw, which isn't really encouraging to hear. But he's back now. I think if he was healthy in the lead up to the season, the entire lead up to the season, I think it might be a much more obvious answer to start him, because he's already been in sort of a situation like this where he's sort of come out of the bullpen, made a spot start. That's what he did in the Music City Bowl. He didn't make too many mistakes to that it put Iowa in bad situations to lose the game. He let the defense do the work. He did what was needed to win. And I think that if he had been healthy leading up for the entire lead up to this season, I think the decision might be a lot easier to kind of put him back in that, okay, just do what you got to do to win. We're not going to do anything flashy. But because he was hurt and because he's, had this truncated lead up to the season, and Deacon Hill has kind of moved into those first team reps with both Cade and Joe Labus out, and he might be the guy. I feel like that's maybe why we're a little bit more hesitant to say keeping Cade out, because you don't know as much what you're going to get with Deacon Hill, whereas you would have at least a little bit more framework of what Joe Labus can provide.
Yeah, definitely. Here's what Kirk Ferentz said specifically about Deacon Hill, who our podcast producer Dargan correctly pointed out that when he kind of transferred to Iowa back in January, it was like, oh, cool, interesting, but kind of an afterthought almost. I mean, no one would have ever imagined we'd get to a point where 4 days out from the season, we're talking about Deacon Hill potentially starting the Hawkeye season opener. Here's what Kirk said about that. Regarding Deacon, I feel a lot better than I did 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, or 1 week ago. And that's what camp is for, to watch guys improve. If there is a blessing, when Cade was out, it gave him every opportunity to work a lot. And later he went on to say, after talking about Labus for a little bit, it's not perfect, but it's a healthy situation right now, and I'm impressed with Deacon and his tempo. But you have to go out there and operate to do that, and he's taken advantage of that, and he's doing a nice job so far. So, to me, I don't know. We didn't see him perform great on Kids Day, obviously, but I thought he was pretty good in the spring game. I mean, I know you didn't get to see that, Tyler, at least not live, and his accuracy was good in the spring game. I thought he impressed me in the spring game. So maybe he just had a bad day at Kids Day. Not good to have a bad day at Kinnick, but still, maybe he's been a lot better. And he's got. We'll probably get into this more in our Wednesday show when we preview the Utah State matchup, but he's got better receivers than they even had in the spring, right? Seth Anderson, Caleb Brown to support Nico Ragaini and Deontay Vines. I mean, that top four, as outlined on the depth chart, looks a lot better. Luke Lachey, Eric All, from all accounts, healthy. Caleb Johnson, Mr. Powerade sponsorship, he's ready to go. So, and then as you pointed out in your tweet, offensive line, one of the top improved position groups on the team. So I think Deacon Hill could definitely lead this team to victory. And to kind of finish on an amusing note, Kirk said that pound for inch, he's the biggest quarterback he's ever seen, which one of our viewers kind of pointed out. I thought that was a nice way to say that, Deacon could maybe stand to lose a few pounds around the waist.
Yeah, I guess going back to the Kids Day, I wasn't really overly impressed with what he did, and that was a small sample size, and maybe that's why I'm just a little bit more hesitant about what he can bring. Because of what he did at Kids Day, it felt like it was a little shaky. But I think if you want to look, and you mentioned part of the silver lining of this was that he has been able to get more reps with the first team, but if you also want to look at it from an optimistic view, it's that Iowa isn't starting the season playing Penn State. They're not starting the season playing Ohio State. They're not playing anyone in the Big Ten. Cade McNamara said today that basically he was happy that if it happened now and not in the middle of the season. So I think the timing of things, while it's not ideal because this is important time for him going into his first season with a new program to continue building chemistry with the guys he's going to be throwing to, at the same time, it's not the worst thing in the world that we're debating should he play or not, because it's Iowa should beat Utah State. It's not, nothing is guaranteed, but this isn't like a massive Big Ten game to open the season. So I think if from a timing aspect of it, like if you look at a positive, then it's that there is some time, it's not dire for him to play. And if he doesn't play, it's an automatic loss. I think that kind of the timing of it isn't great, but it also isn't the worst case scenario.
Last quote from Ferentz on this thing regarding Cade, as we kind of finish it full circle, is he said, "I know what McNamara wants to do. I know how he's wired. And that's part of our job, just to be smart about it. It's tricky." So that's what Kirk Ferentz said. To me, that to me leans that he's not going to play, but we'll find out. The inactive lists are due 2 hours before kickoff. So 9 a.m. on Saturday, we'll presumably have an idea whether Cade is on the active list or inactive list. And potentially also, which we're not going to talk about on this show, but like the other two guys involved in the sports gambling probe who are suspended for this game and are not going to appeal, it does not sound like. We probably will find out a few, like a pretty good idea, like if their names are on that list, that, oh, okay, those must be the two. We got to talk about topic 3 here, Tyler, before we go. And I know this is still your first month or two on the beat, but punting is definitely an Iowa brand. And if you haven't had a chance, just go look at the quote tweets of what the tweet that I sent during the press conference of Kirk Ferentz's quote saying, their punter is a good punter. That's all he said. But it has gone viral. And let me tell you why. Because their punter is a good punter. And listen to this tail of the tape here, Tyler. And I want to give Ben Stevens on Twitter a little credit for this too, because he helped me find these stats. Torrey Taylor last season, 27 out of 82 punts went for 50-plus yards. That is 32.9% of the time. 32.9. Remember that number. Steven Sunley, if I believe I'm pronouncing it correctly, who wears number 63 for Utah State, 22 out of 67 punts of 50 yards plus, 32.8%. So 32.9, 32. These guys are symmetrical, and get this, they're both from Australia, Melbourne, Australia. Unbelievable. Torrey averaged 45.4 last year. Costin Lee, 43.4. It's already become a national storyline now because of this quote, that this is the punting show that everyone needs to tune in and watch at 11 a.m. on Saturday.
And can I mention, based on the picture of his profile, I think I would give Steven the advantage in the mustache department. A pretty impressive mustache. So that, I don't know if that factors into kind of the whole punt. But I guess I don't know if Cade McNamara doesn't play, is what are we looking at? And are there going to be more points scored than the South Dakota State game in the first game of the year last year? Are we in for the greatest punting battle of all time? But yeah, no, that was a comical quote by Kirk.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he intended it to be. I think he was trying to be complimentary, and honestly, the quote tweets are so good. I wish I could document all of them, but some of them are so so hilarious. Including Barstool Big Cat says he's adding Iowa minus 25 to my card based on those comments. So there's so many good ones. Real recognize real, game recognize game. The highest of praises. College football season is back. This is here's a funny one. Are we sure this quote wasn't AI generated? Oh my gosh, it's so good. The Sickos committee's gotten involved. Message board geniuses have gotten involved. It's going to be fun. You weren't here for this, but the 2019 battle, if you guys want to see some punting porn, 2019 Iowa versus Rutgers from the Rutgers side, Adam Korsak, that was his piece de resistance. That was a 30-0 Iowa win in which the Rutgers punter was the star of the game. Trust me on that. Just go to YouTube, try to find those clips. It was epic. Tyler, your first game, you're in for a treat. You're in for a puntapalooza.
Oh no, I'm looking forward to it for sure. And I guess maybe even the other special teams part of it, Drew Stevens. Because how much weight did you say
He's gained 38 pounds since he's come to campus, 167 to 205 now.
I mean, he might be launching them from 70 yards based on getting that weight behind him. But no, I mean, in all seriousness, I think regardless of who plays at quarterback, it feels like there's going to be a lot of kind of optimism and excitement as you would think there should be to start the season. But I think given the way that last season went, how bad the offense was, how the regular season ended against Nebraska, I think that there would certainly, it wouldn't be surprising for a program to feel like there was an optimism around it. But I think because of what Iowa did in the offseason, getting the pieces on offense, getting Cade McNamara, Caleb Brown, Eric All, Seth Anderson, some of the guys that are coming back, Cooper DeJean, other guys on defense, it feels like there's going to be a lot of energy in Kinnick. It feels like there's going to be, optimism and it feels like, without having played a game, that the expectation is to get to Indianapolis and kind of finish what they weren't able to, in that regular season finale against Nebraska last season. So just looking forward to see, how things shake out. Maybe week 1 might not be exactly what people envision when Cade McNamara committed to Iowa, because we don't know if he's going to be playing it, but still feels like there's going to be kind of some excitement in there.
Absolutely. 11 a.m. Saturday, Fox Sports 1 is the television network, sold out Kinnick Stadium. And as Dargan points out in our chat, the line has not moved despite today's questionable chatter. Iowa's still favored by 25.5 points. Over under still at 45. So, we have to bring it back to gambling, right? So, we will talk to you we will preview the game on our Wednesday night Hawk Central show at 6 to 7 on 106.3 KXNO in Des Moines. And then we'll talk to you on Saturday with our post-game episode, Tyler's First from Kinnick Stadium. That'll be a lot of fun. For Tyler Tachman, this is Chad Leistikow of The Register, thanking you for tuning in very much. And we will actually talk to you tomorrow and look forward to this game week ahead. Thanks for tuning in.